Welcome to the Stearns Bank Small Business Podcast. Today I am joined by Douglas LaPointe. Douglas is a future Sharkey's Cuts for Kids franchise owner. A lot of planning going on for him right now. We just wanted to get his take on how things are going for him, especially during this time of COVID-19 and what it's like to open a franchise during this crazy time and unprecedented time, really. So Douglas, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, appreciate it, Andy.
All right. So tell me, how did you decide to pursue the Sharkey's Cuts for Kids as a business opportunity?
Well, I really found myself out of work from the corporate IT world,
Mm-hmm.
and then COVID-19 hit, and any kind of job prospects were becoming slim and few and far between, if at all possible. Certainly at the kind of senior levels, is even harder. And there was a franchise broker reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I thought, well, what the heck? I've always been interested in being a business owner, always have had an eye open for business opportunities, was never quite sure how to make it happen. But I got contacted by basically a franchise broker, and he did a great job in walking me through the process and showed me how possible it was and how accessible some of these franchises were. So he started sending me all sorts of different franchise opportunities that were available. And I picked three that I thought were kind of the top of my list. And I did some detailed due diligence on those three. And really, Sharkey's ended up, surprisingly enough, I never thought I'd find myself being a kids hair salon owner, but from a business model standpoint, I had to admit it was the best deal going. So that's how I ended up with that. So it's been so in a way, the whole COVID break has given me the impetus and the opportunity to actually pursue something I've wanted to do for a long time, but when you're gainfully employed, you don't really do that very much.
Yeah. It had to be something that was on your mind for a while, though. It sounds like, right? It's in the back of your mind, and maybe this is a possibility.
Absolutely. I had kind of gone down the path a couple times, could never quite get my head around how to make the funding work, and the idea of going back into corporate IT was really, really not jazzing me. I've just done it for over 30 years, and my heart wasn't in it. My heart
Yeah.
wasn't in it.
That's a long time to be in that world, for sure. So how about Sharkey's Cuts for Kids? What made it stand out above the other three choices that you had there in the end?
Yeah, it had a very low, I guess, cost to entry, which was fantastic. And I think the biggest thing was the fact that it is a passive ownership model. I am not going to be spending my days managing a kid's hair salon. I'm going to be very actively involved getting it established as a business and putting the business practices into place. But once the salon is staffed and it's up and running, it's a passive ownership model. Most of the Sharkey's franchisees keep their full-time jobs. And so I really look forward to being able to get the franchises up and running, have a modest, kind of a secondary modest source of income, and then I can focus on just getting some part-time work from home project management work that would, shouldn't be too hard for me to do. And then also helps reduce some of the risk of all this pandemic stuff as well, to have an additional source of income from another place instead of relying on someone keeping you employed and or finding work for you. So that part feels good too. I think that was a big part of it. And the other part is it's very recession proof. You can't get a haircut online. You can't order it from Amazon.
Yeah.
It's not quite pandemic proof as we've seen, but one of the first things that opened, at least here in Georgia, were the salons. So we're even positive about that. So between passive ownership and being fairly recession proof and a fun environment, and it's a service everybody needs, that it pretty much rose to the top for us.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my pandemic haircut, so I hope everybody enjoys that. I don't know about you. It's my wife doing a great job getting me by. So,
She
you
is
know.
doing good. A lot of guys I've seen have just gone to the buzz cut or the razor.
Yeah, exactly. One day, hopefully in the fall, I can be able to get back and get a regular haircut. So yeah,
Yes, it feels
crossing my
good.
fingers. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so tell me about where you plan to open these locations. It sounds like around the Atlanta, Georgia area, correct?
It is. We are probably a good 45 minutes north of downtown Atlanta proper, and a lot of very busy family-oriented communities up here, up this Georgia 400 corridor. So we're kind of looking up that corridor and pretty much anywhere in Atlanta, given it's not something I'm going to be going to work at every day. I'm not as particular on location as long as it has the traffic and the right demographics to support a good healthy business.
Yeah. When COVID-19 happened, it sounded like you were kind of in between what you wanted to do. Did COVID-19 happen at a bad time or a good time for you?
It's kind of a good time, I've got to say. I mean, it really forced me. I was about to start diving in and just kind of pulling my boots up and diving into the whole job market world and brushing up the resume and figuring out, looking at the job search boards and all of that. And then the pandemic hit, and even anything I had in play, you almost immediately got the emails. It's like, well, given what's going on, we're not going to be hiring for this position. And after a few of those, it was just like, okay, well, this is clearly not going anywhere. So it forced me to answer Steve Healy. Steve Healy was my job 2.0 counselor. He's the one who reached out to me on LinkedIn, and when he reached out, I was like, sure, I'll talk. I'd love to hear what your ideas are, and it just kind of took off from there. So it was really good.
You were kind of going over the benefits of being a franchisee. I mean, what are you most looking forward to? What one thing are you most looking forward to being a franchise owner?
Wow. There's actually a lot. I know the Sharkey's franchise, well, the Scott Sharkey himself and his team very much operate, like a family, and all the franchisees are a very close-knit community. And so I really look forward to, one, you've got a, built-in business model, and I'm going to learn how to run a small business, which I've never done, which is going to be fantastic. But I also know I've got a great community that I can reach out to, and which I've already done, even just trying to make the decision. I reached out to some of the franchisees, and they spent time talking with me what it was like. And I know that spirit continues within the franchisee community for Sharkies. So I look forward to being a part of that.
What did you know about Stearns Bank before you got here, and why did you decide to work with us?
I knew nothing about Stearns Bank. Was working with Guidon in the throes of getting the whole 401k, get the whole corporation set up with the 401k plan as its own separate entity, funding the business clearly through a Robs. And Guidon did just fantastic job of ushering me through that process. And then came the process of, okay, now you need a bank account, and we recommend Stearns or someone else, I can't remember who it was, for that 401k bank account that you're going to need. And so I just did a very basic bit of research and chose Stearns, and started working with Stearns. Everything was going good. And I also had to create a business checking account, and I was going to do something local here. But in looking at the process, I was kind of coming up against a deadline for owing the remainder of the franchise fees, and looking at the process of having to get the funds, one, transferred from my IRA into the 401k bank account, and then from that account into the business checking account. Once you do all of the stock purchase documentation and everything else, I thought, well, you know what? I'd probably save myself 2 or 3 days in the process if my checking account was also with Stearns. So I believe it was Verena. I took Verena up on the offer to create that checking account. And I thought, you know what? If this doesn't work, that's fine. It'll work for immediately what we're doing. And then I'll open up a local account. But so I really knew nothing going in. And I've just been floored, which is why I reached out to you, Andy, or I posted on the Stearns Facebook page. The service I got was just phenomenal. Everyone just ran everything, just it ran efficiently. Everyone was super friendly. I really felt like, and everyone was very accessible. I felt like, even though, I'm coming up with real quick, it's like, oh, now I had to create 2 more LLCs. Can you get 2 more checking accounts created for me real fast? And, bam, by the end of the day, I've got 2 checking accounts created, and they're reaching out to me with phone calls and making sure it happened and I got it. And I really felt like they were kind of on my team, and they were working for me and making stuff happen. And I just, personally, I haven't seen service like that in a long time. It's to me, it just doesn't happen. And once it started going through that, I'm like, man, I've got to figure out who this Stearns Bank is. And so then I started looking at your web page and your Facebook page, and it started kind of coming together. And also very much run like a family, I think, but very much cares about their customers. Clearly, you guys have created a culture of service, and it really shows. So I'm not going anywhere. I couldn't be happier. I very rarely will reach out and go to somebody's Facebook page or a company's Facebook page and compliment on the service. I mean, it's really got to get my attention. And this really, really did, because I made all my deadlines. Everything worked out perfectly. Wire transfers to the franchisor, everything just went off just beautifully.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I appreciate you saying all those great words. We really appreciate that. But I'm with you as far as like leaving a message for someone on social media. I mean, I only do it in a positive fashion. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be something that really impacts you to do that. So, I mean, that means a lot and says a lot. So we really appreciate that. So tell me about your vision for these locations. What's your short-term vision and your long-term vision?
I would love, long term, I'd love to have these 2 franchises up and running, and obviously profitable. Not, neither of them are going to make gobs amount of money, but nicely profitable and running themselves, and very low maintenance with a loyal set of customers. And I am, doing my part-time project management gig online and being able to work from home, and everything's running smoothly. I know as we get started, my goal is that we are able to break even within the first few months. And talking to some of the other franchisees, I know it's possible, especially if you do all of your marketing and grand opening work well, and you're in a good environment. Hopefully, it'll take 4 or 5 months to get there. So hopefully by then, here in Georgia, things will be even opened up even more. But I am sure that there'll be some permanent changes in business for sure when it comes to standards and protocols and things like that. So look forward to getting them up and running.
When's your goal to open? I mean, do you have a date in mind right now, or is it just too early?
Yeah, it's too early. We're just barely starting the site selection, but it shouldn't be any more than 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, so that is. I mean, that to me that's fast, but maybe yeah, that's very fast. Yeah.
It's going to be a whirlwind. It's the really the beauty of franchising, because you're buying into an existing, known, proven business model, and these guys are the experts. So it's just going to be a matter of how fast I can learn everything and keep up with them. Really.
Mm-hmm. Has the franchise told you anything about, as far as planning goes, strategy goes? Has that changed for them as a franchise? Have they told you about that at all?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, we were just on a call this morning with all the franchisees, and Scott Sharkey was updating us on the things. He also has a salon, and he's just opened up, and he's implemented a lot of changes, and he's briefed everybody on what those are, what's working. He's testing out various products and processes, and So yes, there's going to be another great part of being part of that franchise community is someone's out there going to be testing some of that stuff. And by the time we open, I think we're going to have a pretty good idea of what works and what kind of things we need to do to keep everyone safe.
Hmm. How much are you going to rely on the franchise corp, right away in the beginning, and as you go along, you probably rely on them less and less? How do you envision that working?
Yeah. I think this upfront piece, certainly site selection, they've got all the expertise and relationship with the brokers, and then from there we'll get handed off to operations, and it's going to be very much them doing all the guidance. They have everything you need for the salon once you get the space leased. And yes, it's going to be very much learning from them, learning the process. And then from there, I think it will very quickly become, my business, our business to run. And then just kind of taking their advice on various things as things progress and we learn and environments change and pandemics come and go and things like that.
Hmm. What have you learned about yourself here over the last 4 months? A lot's been going on in the world, and lots been going on with you. What have you learned about? What have you learned about yourself here?
Yeah, probably I'm more comfortable taking this risk and being an entrepreneur than I even thought I would.
Hmm.
I've always loved startups. I've always gravitated to very small companies. I've been on the ground floor of a couple small companies, but never started one myself. Never, like a small business like this. But um, I've enjoyed it. And I am enjoying it, and I find myself I'm more comfortable with it than I thought I would be.
Hmm.
I'm not staying awake at night, worried and panicking or anything.
I
I'm
would
just
be.
enjoying the process. I'm sure if I was doing this myself and not joining a franchise, that would be very different. But maybe
Yeah.
I think it's part of the beauty of buying into a franchise. I know I've got great advisors and great folks who know how to make this happen.
You were talking a little bit about hoping to break even over that first year. Are you expecting like an immediate rush of people coming in and then it's settling down? Or what's the projections maybe that they've given you?
Yeah, it's really more of a slow ramp up. Obviously, you want to have a really good grand opening. You want to have all your marketing out there through social media and all the other accounts to let people know that you're coming. But it really is going to be a build up, and hopefully, yeah, you get to, I can't remember what the number is, but a certain number of cuts per week, then you're really much at that break even point. And so it is my expectation is to, at least the goal is to ramp that up as quickly as possible. And obviously having a good opening and really great service from the outlet or from the outset, and folks talking with each other and giving you good reviews and things like that. I think that's really going to be the key is starting off strong.
Doug, thanks so much for taking the time and joining us today. And hopefully anybody in your position right now or any small business owner can take some of this advice to heart. And I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, Andy. Much appreciated. Appreciate the time.